If you're looking to do FTMO and become a successful trader, you need to learn from other successful traders. In this video, that's exactly what you'll be doing if you watch until the end. Today's video includes some of the best tips from our most recent Traders Podcast episodes, so remember, if you do enjoy this video, let me know in the comments section, and if you have learnt anything new, just put it down there and I'll try and get back to you. If you are new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and enough of me talking, let's hear some successful traders talk about how you can pass the FTMO challenge successfully.
We used to focus on how much we can make, rather how much we can lose. And every time now, we basically look how much are we risking. That's the first question. We don't care how much we can make. Our first question is how much we can lose. And I think for both of us, that was the biggest shift and our biggest progress was made, because essentially, if you only focus on how much you can make, you'll make mistakes along the way because you're just going to try and make that money. Whereas if your first thing to solve is how much you can lose, I think that will take your trading a bit further.
So kind of going on from that, you mentioned that trading like a small account, you have the kind of mentality of you need that big gain. Do you think that if someone's not profitable on a small account, they can be profitable on a larger account?
I think so. I mean, in my case, that's been the case, to be honest with you, because I've traded a few small accounts in the past, and it's also a case of back then I had not the same experience, and also with us, we've had FTMO with a big account. So basically, because FTMO was such a big end goal for us, that we knew that if we pass it, basically, it's a life-changing amount of money to be trading with, basically. But with a small account, it's almost easier to risk more, because if you have a trade open and let's say you have £1,000 and you're risking 2%, it's £20 in the line. Whereas if you're trading with £100,000, 2% is £2,000. So you're a lot less likely to accept that big loss with a bigger amount, because it's a bit psychologically, it's a bit more difficult to deal with a bigger number. If you can't trade a small account, it's all about psychology, essentially. I was never really profitable on a small account, but going to a big account, I found it easier to trade with. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
I would agree, because if you're in a trade with £1,000 and you're up, say, I don't know, 2 or 3% on our kind of trading style, so it's a very sort of quite short term trading, that's 30 quid. That ultimately, that's not a lot of money, and you can, and we did this, you forget that that's actually 3%. So if you had 100,000, you're looking at £3,000. That's a lot of money. So it scales very quickly. So I would say, trading with a large account is easier as long as you stick to the plan. Because if you don't, it's also a lot more destructive. Because if you lose 10% off of £1,000, that's not really that big of a deal. Let's be honest, it's 100 quid, right? But if you're losing 10% off of £500,000, well, then you've got bigger issues.
Do you have any advice for traders looking to do FTMO from your experience?
I would say don't rush. There's really no rush at all. I would say the biggest mistake that people make is that, I don't know, maybe they only have a year of trading or 2 years of trading, and they think that they have a good understanding of technicals or fundamentals or just their strategy, whatever the case is. And so they're like, I've been doing fairly good, so maybe if I go for this big amount of money, it'll make a big difference and things like that. But I think you gotta always give things a little bit of time, because I think over time you realize that the fear of missing out, or FOMO, that kind of goes away the longer you trade, because you realize that even if you miss the 400 pip move candle, 1 hour candle today, there's gonna be another day where, not necessarily that happens, but there's gonna be another day where there's a big move that you're gonna catch. And I think that's a really big hurdle to get over in trading, because I think a lot of times, even in my own experience, I used to do this a lot early on. I would maybe get in a trade, it would go, let's say 100 pips, I'd be very happy with that, and I close, and then I would be really upset when I see it continue for 200-300 more pips. And then maybe the next time I try to go and hold that 100 pip trade with maybe a generous stop loss and profit, and I try to go for that extra 200 or 300, and then it just doesn't work out when I do it. But then every time I, take profit, it seems to go the opposite way. I think that could be a very limiting like cycle of a mindset to get stuck in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna have you conflicted with yourself. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the time is like a really important factor in terms of learning lessons like that, and others. I think that was maybe more personal to me, but I think that lesson in others is something that you only get with time. So I'd say don't rush. Like if you're winning like every trade that you take for 2 months, like I would still say give it some time and like try to make yourself go through more ups and downs, because I feel like if you're able to go through those ups and downs and like I guess observe your emotions and figure out how to handle them, then if let's say your drawdown is -30 and you had such and such emotion and you were able to battle it and win, and maybe you took the loss and you grew from it and you rebuilt the account, or maybe you just held the drawdown and it ended up going your way, like whatever you learned from it, when the case is you're in 30,000 drawdown or 3 million drawdown, it will be kind of the same. You'll just be like, oh, it's extra zeros. It's not, like I've been here before. I've been in this predicament where I've been down X percentage or whatever, and it felt really bad, but I know how to react in the situation. So I just feel like the more things you expose yourself to in the market, the better a trader you'll be over time.
Yeah. And do you think that traders need to trade an actual live account before doing FTMO, or do you think they could go straight from a demo to a live account?
I don't know. I think that's just gonna be like person to person. It's such an individual thing. I mean, I think it goes back again to like your ability to manage the emotions. If having a real account is gonna change your emotions a lot, when you make the transition, then yeah, it's definitely gonna be hard. I mean, but if you're gonna make it work, you got to get over it. So it's hard to make it feel like it's a real account when you know it isn't. But I mean, I think it's doable. I mean, anything's doable. I think as long as you kind of make up your mind about what you want to do with your trading and you kind of stick to that, I think that is a key, because like I was saying before, you don't want to be in a situation where you're internally like battling with yourself because of past experience or past trade or whatever the case is that's making you feel that way, because it kind of just makes like there's so much uncertainty in Forex that the last thing that you want to add to that pile of uncertainty is your own individual uncertainty. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So during your FTMO challenge, was there one trade that stood out to you in a good or bad reason?
I think, yeah, definitely. February or March, I had a trade on Euro JPY that essentially won the challenge for me. It was really, it was a weird trade for me because, so it was a trade where basically I caught the initial move, there's a pullback, and then I added more to the pullback. And the second move off of that initial impulse was like 280 pips like by the next day when I woke up. And the re-entry that I added, so normally I would just go in with like a standard, maybe like 1.5 or 2, but for whatever reason I just went in with 5 lots, and I really don't, it was kind of silly honestly thinking back, but I'm glad I did it, of course. But yeah, I guess that was one that stuck out to me because I achieved my goal. I didn't really have to do anything spectacular, and I think it was one of those moments of, I don't want to call it clarity, but just like no, there's no fear in like me using such a high lot size. I was just kind of so confident. I was like, I've seen this move before. Fundamentals make sense. Like everything makes sense. And I was just like, if I lose the trade, I lose the trade, whatever. But there's a strong potential I'm not going to lose it. So I kind of just went for that.
So if you could give one piece of advice to a new trader, what would it be?
So a new trader, please don't go to these Instagram posts where all you see is cars, monies, Rolexes, and follow their signals, please. Because if them companies stop, what's going to happen to you? You're going to have to stop. So find a reputable company, someone that's got good reviews, and go through a mentorship program. Okay, the consistency and the discipline will come further down the line, so I'm not going to say be consistent and disciplined now, but get yourself a mentor. You don't have to pick me, you can pick anyone you want. If you come to me, great, fantastic, but pick anyone, someone that's got good reviews, someone that has got clients that have gone through their program and are now consistently profitable, and follow their rules. There's a reason why they're making money and they're consistent. So follow their rules, stick to their rules, and don't go on YouTube looking for this system, that system, this system. Just ground yourself, take a course as if you would if you wanted to be a plumber, an electrician, an engineer, a doctor. You wouldn't go and learn off YouTube, okay? You would take a course, you would pay good money for it, and you would go through the process. And that is my advice to any new trader.
Yeah. So what would you give in terms of advice to someone that struggles with that discipline and the patience with trading that plan?
I would say, have you done your back testing, okay? Have you tested the system and does it make money? If the answer is no, then I know they're struggling with discipline and consistency because they haven't tested their plan. They don't know the ups and downs of it. They don't know when they're going to have a drawdown or when they're going to have a winning streak. I mean, that's never 100% predictable when it's going to happen, but at least you know your drawdown is X amount on an average, okay? So you can expect that sort of thing. If they have done their back testing, then I would just try basically give them a bit of help their psychology to get through it. So like one of my clients is going through a drawdown at the moment, and their psychology goes, they get upset about it, they beat themselves up about it, but yet when they're having 2 to 3 weeks worth of winning consistent wins, they're buzzing, they're so happy. So it's about looking at when you're having a good time. It's about when you're making that money, think about how you feel, and yet what was you doing during that time? Yeah, was you consistent? More than likely you was. So in that case, as long as you stay consistent now and you keep trading the plan and the system, you will then come out of your drawdown and you will be consistent, and that will give you the confidence to carry on with your system.
What do you think is the number one reason people fail?
Well, there's a lot of reasons people fail, but to summarize it all, I think they just don't treat trading like a business. They see things and they see it as a game or as a gamble or as a way to make money that doesn't require much work. And that's like a sexy idea, right? Don't do much work, just trade and you'll be making money. Well, yeah, but that's not how things work. So I think that's the main thing. They don't see it as a business and they don't take it seriously.
If a new trader wasn't taking it seriously and maybe they didn't have the business plan or the long-term mindset, what would you say to them to help them develop that long-term mindset and that business brain for the markets?
One thing that's interesting is you can talk to business owners, and I learned a lot from like business books and then you can apply them to trading. So you read these books about business, they can apply, or you talk to business owners and they will tell you things that you think about it a little bit more, and then you say, oh yeah, I can for sure tweak this to trading, and that's something that's really powerful. So there's been a lot of lessons that I got, and if you look at like all these processes in business, all the things that they do, they're not doing them just for fun. They're there for a reason, and us traders we tend to forget doing them, but we have to do them. Like things like R&D, so like research and development, you can work on that. Things like all the operation, the checklists that they have in businesses, in airlines or whatever. Those are things you can work on yourself. And all the aspect that you think that you don't like to do yourself, like taxes or whatever, you can outsource them. You can have people that work for you that do that. So I think that's something you can work on. And if you have the same diligence as the CEO in your trading, then you'll get results for sure, eventually.